Hi guys. This week we're going to look at the documents that aren't screenwriting. So it's screenwriting, the other documents. So let's start with the small ones. We'll probably get the longer ones and back to small ones again. So the logline. Everyone has heard of it, and if you haven't heard of it, it is a 1 or 2 sentence version of your screenplay. It is, some people say it has to be less than 20 words, it has to be less than 30 words, less than 60 words. But it's the most condensed through line. The best way to write a logline is sort of get rid of the inciting incident or make it 1 or 2 words. What your movie is about at the theme, heart, core of the story. It's a little sales document. And a lot of these things are going to be sales documents other than your screenplay. You may write a treatment or an outline. And that is your story in prose form. I outline in dot points. I don't really write treatments too much, but I'll have all my beats, my dot points. And a lot of my dot points are questions. Would he do this? And then later on another dot point, I'll answer that. Would she do that? Or why would she do that? And I'll answer it later on another dot point. This is just me getting it out of my brain and onto paper. The reason I'm prompted to do this is because a producer that I work with is off doing some funding rounds. And they came back and said, and we've done a few versions, a few changes over time with the script, and said, can I get a fresh synopsis, your fresh take on it? So I wrote one, and I wrote, because I know they're going to be putting together a pitch document. So I wrote a fairly longish one. I think, yeah, that's it here. It starts with a few things like we've got a little bit of a opening credits there. Yep, some opening shots over the credit, which informs the story. Then it was 2 or 3 page synopsis. And then I also gave them the shorter synopsis, which is one that they can send to people, which was about 300 words or 400 words. Very, very short, maybe 200 words. That's a very short synopsis. And that one just hits the big themes. So rather than have all your things in a synopsis where you might say, then this happens, and that turns it, and this happens, and that turns it, this happens. You'll do the big chunks. So if we're doing like a synopsis for Star Wars, I think everyone's seen it in the last 40 years or so, where it would be a case of the galaxy is run by an empire. The emperor is very rules with an iron fist. There's a rebellion put together. A farm boy who wants to join the rebellion gets the opportunity. He discovers that he has a psychic ability known as the Force, which allows him to do things telepathically and telekinetically, and rises through the ranks quickly to be part of the last raid on a planet-killing device called the Death Star, bringing the rebellion to victory. Like a couple of 100 words, where another synopsis might go across with the whole, rescues a princess, the planet was destroyed, this now sets in place this, and it would go on a bit more into the beat, he does this, and it's very much a hero's journey thing with Star Wars. And it sets out the beats. And they're a little bit more specific. So, and you've got to also make sure to get that colour into your logline. Because if you think of the logline for Harry Potter or the logline for Star Wars, very similar. A boy raised by his aunt and uncle discovers he has a magic power. There is an evil villain, Voldemort, Darth Vader, out to kill him. He has a magical mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Dumbledore, learns his skills and goes off into a battle. Yeah, Harry Potter, Star Wars. So then the synopsis teases that out, makes it a bit more. So I had the 2 synopses, I suppose, the longer one that they can use and they drag things out for their pitch document. And then the shorter one that they can include in their pitch document they can send on. And then the other one, which was interesting, that I hadn't really written before, was the writer's statement. Because I've always worked with the producers. And because these producers have acquired it and are involving me in the fundraising, the financing, pitching, they wanted the writer's statement for this film. And this was, why did I write it? Why did I find it compelling to write? And this is interesting and necessary because you've got to be able to answer one very important question, which I asked in a previous video, which is the why now statement. Why does your film need to be made now? So that's when the writer says, I believe that this story is important to do this. Why do I choose this antagonist? Why do I choose this protagonist? And the protagonist in this film is a very, sort of like a female action hero, but she doesn't start off this way. It's an origin story for a female action hero, which isn't a well-known, it's not even a famous action hero, but I just want you to think of her as an action hero. And in it, I put that a lot of the characters that were available to my daughter when she's growing up, and she's now 26, were either living up to a man's expectations, just wanting to be popular, desperate to fall in love. And even some of the heroes in some of their shows, in some of the shows that she would watch, still needed a man involved. There were still damsels in distress, damsels in distress, I think that's the term. But they were being rescued by a man. They may step up at the end, or they may become a little bit self-reliant, but they still were formed around a man. They needed that. There wasn't a Ripley for young girls. Alien was too old a film to really be in the zeitgeist for young women when my daughter was growing up. So this is, and then we had Katniss Everdeen. She was a good female character. She was very, very important for young women. So I wanted to write something like a Katniss Everdeen, someone who needed to step up, did so, changed her life, changed her belief based on herself, and took herself to victory on her terms, not to live up to somebody else's terms. And that's why I wrote the character called Sarah in this film. It's called Sarah. So that was all in my writer's statement. Why it's important to, I believed it was important to young women, and the role that this sort of character would play, and how it will connect to the audience, and why I wrote it and how I wrote it, and the things that are facing them. It's very, not YA as in the typical YA, but she's a YA character that even adults could relate to. But if you're in the YA category, I didn't drift into anything that was too horrible for her. But she goes through some terrible things and comes out the other side based on her own choices and actions, which is the other important thing. Her choices drove the story, her actions. A lot of female characters are reacting to things. They're sort of passive characters, while male characters tend to be, my actions drive the story forward. Some people tend to write female characters where it's not their actions driving things forward, it's their reacting. They're trying to, they're always on the back foot. And finally, sometimes through a luck or a twist of fate, they win out at the end. So I had to remove that, and that was in the writer's statement. And again, the writer's statement is only 200 to 300 words. So think about those things when you write your screenplay. You've got your screenplay, so what am I going to do now? Well, I could have written my logline up front, but I'll probably write a logline now that resembles the screenplay as it ended. So I'll write a logline. I'll write a short synopsis, I'll write a long synopsis, and I'll write a writer's statement. These are the documents that aren't your screenplay, and they're sales devices, and you will need them, and they're good practice to write. I'd like to actually, if you go over to Stage 32, I don't normally talk about Stage 32, it's a good little social media platform, sharing platform, forum for screenwriters. Morris Vaughan, who's one of the contributors over there, he's been sharing a lot of my stuff, so I'd just like to say thank you. And when he contributes to the forum, he's very insightful, shares some very good stuff, and always has very helpful comments. So if you go over there, reach out, follow him, do the sorts of things that people do on social networks. But very, very good writer, and I'd just like to thank him publicly for sharing my stuff and getting these messages out there. Until next time, guys, keep writing. Bye.